What's up, guys? Ender Unknown here. I'm back for episode 9 of our Unity Spelunky-Style game series, and today we are going to be working on getting our player to interact with various things that we have added in the last few episodes, such as the treasure and the enemies and the spikes. So I guess if we press play right now, we've got this, but as you can see, I can't really interact with anything. I do believe that we never resolved this problem with the spikes and the enemies here, so we're gonna work on that today. I guess the first thing that we're gonna need to do is go into scripts and create. We're actually going to need two living base, so all living things are going to have this, and well, actually, we'll just start there. So let's open up Living Base in Visual Studio, and we will continue there. Okay, now that we are in Visual Studio, we're going to get started here with Living Base. I'm going to just start by deleting all of this. Pretty much this is going to have all of the stuff that we care about for our living stuff. So I guess mainly health. So we're going to have an int called health, and then we're also going to have a function called, I don't know, damage, and we'll give it an amount. And when we damage, we're just gonna subtract the amount from the health. And oh yeah, public void damage. So that's actually pretty easy. And then I guess any other on damage stuff here. So yeah, that is that. Then I guess what we could do is knockback if we wanted to put that in here, but I think we will maybe wait. Yeah, I'm trying to think. No, I think this is all we really need for now. This class will probably get expanded later. So anyways, we're going to go add that back onto our player here. Back in Unity, we are going to get our player prefab. And we are going to add living base. And we are also going to, health is going to equal 3. And we're also going to add this to our enemy, the basic patrol enemy. I guess we could edit it in here. Also living base, this thing is just gonna have 1 health though. So yeah. Here it is. Oh, another thing that we do need with the player is we do need to add another box collider to D. And I'm going to drag that up here. So our first box collider is going to be whichever, yeah, this one, the bottom one here. The top one here is going to be a trigger. I don't know why I decided to disappear. Here we go. Yeah, this top one is going to be a trigger. So basically what we want to do with this one is precisely overlay it so that basically what this is going to do is handle player interaction. So we might even shrink this box down just a little bit because this is the hitbox, and then this is the player's interactivity up here. So we want to just make this a little bit wider than the player. Not too much, but just a little bit. So this is going to be, this trigger is going to, what is going to pick up gold and whatnot. And handle enemy interaction. But we want it a little bigger than the collision box because otherwise, since the gold has a collision box, then it'll interact with our collision box, and we don't want that to happen. We want, when we touch the gold to get collected, so that if I say the character's running in a straight line, they don't just hit the gold and then the gold disappears. The gold disappears as they're running, and they won't hit it, but it will look like they are hitting it. So I don't know. We might have to fine tune this a little, this like box here a little more, but I think for right now that's fine. And we just again make sure that it is set to a trigger. I don't think I can rename the component, which is unfortunate, but you know, that is what it is. Anyways, that is what we need to do on the player, and we are going to have to open up our player motor script here to add some more changes. Okay, we are going to need to add a new on trigger enter 2D with a 2D collider 2D. There we go, collider 2D. And pretty much we're gonna have to do some checks to determine what we are colliding with. So first thing we're gonna do is if collider dot gameObject dot oh sorry, it's get component, not contains. Yeah, get component player motor. So if it has a player motor, we're just going to return because we're not going to interact with our own hitbox. And actually, no, we're going to. Does this return a? Oh no. Well, okay, never mind. Collider game object get component. What do we call it? Treasure. If it's treasure, then what we're going to want to do is treasure dot. Okay, yeah, we're gonna have to open treasure. Treasure is going to have a public void called onCollide, and yeah, pretty much with the onCollide, it's not going to take any arguments. I mean, actually, yeah, we probably need a player motor. So player motor, or actually, we'll just do game object called player. So actually though, if an enemy collides with it, we might want to do stuff. So we'll just do a game object called collider. And what we're going to want to do in here is treasure should have a value, so int value, and then on collide we're going to we'll want this public so we can interact with it in the inspector. So we'll do collider get component player, and actually we'll want that as an if statement. Player motor, or actually, we probably don't even need to, since this is only going to be called from. Okay, yeah, we can simplify this. Is player. Is player. Then our player data. And we have to go create a new variable public static int called gold. It's going to equal 0. It's going to plus equal our value. Yeah, there we go. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit tired this morning. So, yeah, anyways, in our player motor, we're just going to have to do, we're going to invoke that onCollide, and we're going to pass in true because this is a player. True. So basically what this will do is it'll update our player data so then we have more gold based on the value of the treasure. Then we'll have to do I guess, we'll start there. We're going to get this working first. Another thing we have to do is, make this that, and there. Yeah, we need to delete the gold, otherwise the player's just going to be able to collect as much as they want. Actually, no, we call destroy game object. I think that works. Yeah, so we'll add the value to the player data, and then we'll destroy it. So let's go make sure that this works here. Before we start, we just got to remember to change the value from, this would be 0 to, we want 10 or whatever. So now we should be able to start this. And I should be able to go find a piece of gold somewhere, and we can collect it. And that is working just fine. Here we go. Here we go. There's some more gold. In fact, I think the collider on the bottom needs to be a little bigger because I can feel my character landing on it. We also probably need to figure out enemies because they are a bit abundant, to say the least. But that is up to the concern of you guys, in the sense that I gave you the tools to mess with the values. So anyways, yes, that is working just fine. And we don't really have a way to visualize how much gold we have yet, but we'll get around to that when we make the UI. Since the gold is being destroyed, I'm quite sure that it is actually incrementing the counter or whatever. So yeah, that's good. We do have to make a quick change to the spike prefab, and I can do that up here. So it's collider. We don't need a just a box collider for this. We could definitely get by with a trigger. So triggers, I don't know how much I've explained. I don't think we've used them. They're basically like an invisible box collider. They detect when things enter and exit and when stuff is inside of them, but they don't actually collide with stuff. Since this is a tile, it doesn't need a rigid body, so this is perfectly fine. So now when I run this, yeah, we can move through, which is exactly the behavior that I would like to see. Now what we're going to do is, if I happen to fall on top of one of these spikes, then that is when things are not as happy fun for me. So it's going to be fine walking behind them or between them or whatever, but if we are having, probably what we'll do is if we have a negative motion or velocity more than a certain value, then we'll well, the spikes are going to be an insta-kill, so that is actually one more function we're going to want on our, whatchamacallit, on the living base is just a insta-kill function. And I'm going to go change that prefab here. Player. Yeah, so just make sure not to make these too big. They just need to be large enough that they detect collision before our hitbox hits stuff. So that should be fine. Anyways, I'm going to go back into our spikes, and I can't remember, did we make a special trap? No, we didn't. So that's what we're going to have to go do, is add a trap script. So each trap script is going to probably be specific to the trap. So I'm just going to call this spike trap, and then we'll go do that now. Okay, so yeah, we are now back in Visual Studio. I had to do some looking into how to make this work, but before we got into the spike trap, I did want to add a public void, or actually we'll just call it kill. And basically what this will do is destroy our entity or whatever you want to call it. So yeah, what we are going to want to do is have a public unity event. I'm sure we're going to have to probably import something. Yep, using Unity events, engine events. There we go. This is going to be called on death. And what we're going to want to do is have on death dot invoke. So basically what this is going to do is we're going to be able to set up a bunch of functions, and whenever the living base dies, it'll invoke this method. So for right now, this isn't going to do anything. We'll probably either handle that later or in our own its own episode. One last thing here is we need to add a check to see if health is less than or equal to 0. And if so, we're just going to call that kill function. Actually, we should just call this on death. On death, there we go. And yeah, so that is all we need to do here. So I'm going to move into the spike trap. So the spike trap is pretty simple. It has a trigger attached to it. So on trigger enter 2D with a collider 2D. And Unity is having problems. I'm going to go fix this. I'll be right back. Okay, now that it's working, we can do our math here or whatever. So if the collider dot game object get component living base, then we're going to want our oh, can I just do get component like that? That's neat. I believe rigid bodies are the ones that's so I need to. I'm pretty sure this is. Yes, this does store velocity. So let's go make a float. This is going to be called I don't know, downward force. And basically what this is going to be what we compare the downward velocity against to determine if they need to be impaled on the spikes. So yeah, so if it's living base, and actually we could add that up here, and we have a component of rigid body 2D, and its velocity on the would be no, it'd be y, I think. Y is greater than downward force, then we're going to, and I can just do this with the collider here, get component living base, and we'll just call the on death. So yeah, and then the last thing we do have to do is make in our player motor is add a method called void on public void on death, and all this is going to do is pretty much just for right now we're just going to print, so it's what debug.log, I believe. So the player has died. Okay, so now we need to go into Unity to fix everything else up for this. First thing we need to do is add our spike trap script to the spike traps, and we're going to start by making this 0.5. I have no idea what kind of values we're going to need, so we'll have to tweak it as we go. Then for our player here, we are going to need to have this on death. You're going to add player motor, and we'll have it do the on death. There we go. So that's the event that we want to trigger. So yeah, that should be it, I think. So now we're gonna spawn in. I can move like this, but if I fall, something is not working. I'm gonna go figure that out. Okay, we have to do one more thing here. I forgot that we don't use the Unity's velocity system we actually have our own. So we're going to need a vector2 called get velocity, and this is just going to return our velocity. And by the way, this is in the player controller. I should have maybe specified. And then inside our player, no, sorry, spike trap here, we want to get a player controller, which is all of the living bases are going to have some extension of this, or we'll figure it out if they don't. Get velocity dot y. If that's greater than the downward force, then yeah. So now we'll go and make sure that this all works. Okay, another silly thing is it's a negative velocity, so yeah, if our velocity is less than 0 is what we're gonna want to do. And I did do some checking, so we can hard code this 0, or we can go do it in the inspector. So yeah, if it's less than 0, then we want to do this. Okay, so now that's finally fixed. So yeah, the last thing in Unity is just to make that 0. So I should be able to, I want to find a good, oh, the player has died. There we go. So yeah, I got impaled on the spikes. It doesn't do anything yet. I do want to try going sideways. Yeah, see, if we're on the ground, we can go sideways through them, like this, and I don't die. But the second I land on them, then we do die. So that's similar to the Spelunky, whatchamacallit, mechanics. Now, one thing we could do to actually improve upon this is to open the prefab and change this trigger so that it was just this, I don't know, top part here. Probably even as extreme as this. So if we hit the collider, but we're under it, or whatever, I don't know. Maybe this, I guess the kind of thought I had is, and I don't think this is going to, yeah, that's not going to work, is that the player could maybe just clip onto the side here. But no, we'd need a little more to get that working. So I guess I won't change that for now, because I'm happy it's working here. Yeah. So then the final thing we have to get the player interacting with is the actual enemies. So yeah. I think we need one more script for that. So we're gonna have to create a enemy base and open it up. So pretty much all we have to do in here is define a collision damage, and that will be an int. So yeah, that's actually all we need right now. So we're gonna go attach this to the enemy. Okay, so yeah, enemy base, collision damage is going to be 1. Then back in our script, yeah, back in the player motor script down here, we are going to do another else if the collider game object get component is equal to what's it called, enemy base. Then what we're going to want to do is call a lead called, I guess, take damage, and into mount. And we'll have a bool called knockback, and we're just gonna default that to false. But we're going to do take damage. The amount is gonna be I forgot that you can just do that. Enemy base is what did we call it? Collision damage, there we go. And we do actually want knockback. So take damage. All we need to do for that is get our component of living base. We'll do damage. The amount will be the amount passed in. And then if we do indeed have knockback, then what we're going to want to do is apply a value. So I guess what we could do is that target velocity, we could I guess we're going to need to know the enemy position. So how do I want to do this? I guess we're just going to have bool knockback. Okay, we'll actually make two separate methods. Here we go. This will be easier. So int amount, and then a vector2 called target position. So what we'll do is we'll just call the other take damage with, and I did not spell amount right. Amount. There we go. And this will be the knockback. So yeah, we don't want a true here. We're gonna want call dot get component, or call that positive transform position. So we are going to want our target velocity, or actually just our we could just modify the normal velocity, is going to plus equal a new vector2, and we're going to want target pos. So this is the target. If the target is in front of us, then we're going to want to apply negative. To determine that, we're going to need to get the difference of x values, and if that is positive or not. So I guess target pos dot x is, if that is greater than or equal to r transformed position dot x, then if that is true, we are going to want to, that means they are in front of us, so we want to apply a negative. So it'll be, I don't know, negative. I honestly have no idea how much this velocity affects us. So I guess we'll try negative 10. And otherwise it'll just be normal 10. We're going to copy and paste this for the y. Yeah. And just add that to our velocity. So I guess we'll have to see how how well that works. You guys might have to tweak around with some of these values. I guess I'll go test it out here. Well, I changed around some of the values, and it's definitely interesting. Kind of get ping-ponged around. I think this is something we're gonna have to change at some point. I get stuck in the floor half the time, or stuck in the enemy half the time. But for the sake of today, and the fact that it does deal damage, that is, I think, okay. I don't really know what I'm gonna change for this later, but I don't know. A good Google would be knockback, or YouTube or whatever, to figure out what could be changed is knockback. I set my values to like 20, I think, and it's a bit much. And the horizontal just generally gets me stuck if I collide that way. So I don't know. Maybe leave out the collision. For now, I'm just going to go do that. So in Visual Studio here, I'm just not going to provide that second value. We will definitely relook this. I don't have the time to do so today, but uh, yeah, I definitely will look into that. Anyways, we did get quite a bit done. So yeah, if we run into the enemies there, it says we die. So I guess gotta be somewhat careful. The enemies still don't work great. They get stuck quite frequently. We can pick up our gold though, which is good. I don't know. So next week we'll see. I'm posting on Saturdays now because school started, and I don't know how much more of this series I'm gonna be able to do with school or whatnot. I feel kind of unprofessional when it comes to Unity for some of these uh, more complex things. So I guess you guys will have to let me know if you are really enjoying the Unity series or if I should just go back to uh, doing C# stuff with Windows Forms and maybe looking into some other like games from scratch or whatever. Not scratch the program, but making a game in C# from the ground up with. I think there's a good library out there that they use to make Terraria, XML or something. I don't know. That I could definitely look into and just build something from the ground up. I'm better at doing that than working with Unity, but it is kind of ultimately up to you guys because I want to make content that is interesting for other people. So, yeah, I will definitely finish out this series to whatever degree that is. Um, with the Spelunky, I want to kind of do a little more world building rather than game mechanics in the sense that I feel I'm not amazing at getting the Unity collision and Unity all that stuff to work. Whereas I think I could probably do some of the world generation algorithms and maybe work on some of the stuff that's just more heavily C# based rather than Unity based. But I don't know. You guys will have to let me know. That is all I have for episode 9 here, and I will be back next week with something. I don't know what yet. Um, we'll maybe do. I don't know. I'll let you guys know next week what we'll work on. Maybe actually getting the player to die. I don't know when they land on the spikes or collide with too many enemies instead of just saying it in the chat or the debugger. Anyways, that like I said is already. I'm out of time for today. Thank you guys for watching. Ender out.